Peace, my name is Haven Bullets, and today I gotta bring you this story about HUD Secretary Ben. I need $30,000 for my dinner set, Carson, who wants to raise, not just raise, triple the rent on the poorest Americans who receive federal assistance for their housing. Let's get into this article, family. It's by the Washington Post. HUD Secretary Ben Carson to propose raising rent for low-income Americans receiving federal housing subsidies. This is beyond hypocrisy. This is the same administration that just cut taxes for corporations and the richest Americans. Now you want to raise the cost of living on the poorest Americans? And this flies in the face of what Trump ran for president on. Didn't Trump run about how there's not enough jobs and not enough high-paying jobs in America? So if there's not enough jobs in America and not enough good-paying jobs in America, how could you then turn around and attack the social safety net, which is supposed to be there because there's not enough good-paying jobs and there are no jobs at all in some cases? How are you doing this? This makes no sense to me. It makes sense because this is what the Republicans do and this is what they stand for. They're the party of the rich, but it's just so cruel, unnecessarily cruel, for no reason. But let's get into the article, family. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson proposed far-reaching changes to federal housing subsidies Wednesday, tripling rent for the poorest households and making it easier for housing authorities to impose work requirements. Carson's proposals and other initiatives aimed at low-income Americans receiving federal assistance amount to a comprehensive effort by the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress to restrict access to the safety net and reduce the level of assistance for those who do qualify. How mean, how needlessly mean to target the poor while doing everything in your power to enrich the rich. The ambitious effort to shrink federal assistance has been dubbed Welfare Reform 2.0 after Bill Clinton's overhaul of the welfare system in 1996. The proposal affects housing, food stamps, and Medicaid, would require congressional approval. Trump earlier this month signed an executive order directing federal agencies to expand work requirements for low-income Americans receiving Medicaid, food stamps, and public housing benefits and welfare. The agencies are supposed to issue recommendations to the White House within 90 days. This is terrible. It's like this is what you're focused on right now. This is what you are focused on. Trying to make life harder for the poorest among us. So your first priority was to make life easier for the richest among us. Now it's to make life harder for the poorest among us. I don't even have any words for this. Let's continue on. The initiative unveiled by Carson Wednesday would raise the rent for tenants in subsidized housing to 35% of gross income, or 35% of their earnings, working 15 hours a week at the federal minimum wage, up from the current standard of 30% of adjusted income. About half of the 4.7 million families receiving housing benefits would be affected, HUD officials said. That's over 2.3 million people would be affected by this. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And all this for what? Like how does this help anybody? How do you help the poor by increasing their cost of living? How does increasing somebody's cost of living get them out of poverty? This makes no sense. But it makes perfect sense if your whole mission is just to hurt people. Period. The cap on rent for the poorest families would raise to about $150 a month, 3 times higher than the existing $50 ceiling. About 712,000 households would see their monthly rent raised to $150, officials said. There is one inescapable imperative driving this reform effort, Carson said in a call with reporters. The current system isn't working very well. Doing nothing is not an option. Alright, the current system is not working very well. How is making life more expensive for poor people going to fix the system? Ben Carson never explains this. How is making the system, how is raising the rent on the poorest people, making life more expensive for them, going to somehow fix this broken system? The HUD secretary says government spending on housing increase every year without reaching the vast majority of those who qualify for aid. Only 1 in 4 eligible families receive housing benefits, he said. The rest remain on the waiting list for years and may never receive help. So, you just said only 1 out of 4 families who are eligible for housing benefits receive housing benefits, which means 3/4 of people who are eligible for government assistance are not receiving the assistance. And your brilliant idea is to make it more expensive for the people already on it. That would also put it out of reach for the other 3/4, and shrink the budget. How does any of this make sense? Every year it takes more money, millions of dollars more, to serve the same number of households, Carson said. It's clear from a budget perspective and a human point of view that the current system is unsustainable. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true at all. You just made all this up. And if it's so unsustainable because it's getting so much more expensive, why are you giving tax cuts to rich people and corporations? I just don't get it. Let us continue on, family. HUD wants to scrap rules allowing deductibles for medical and child care costs when determining rent, which Carson says gives some tenants an unfair advantage. So, as we see here, family, this is more than tripling the rent, because they just tripling the rent, and then once you take away the deductibles, that makes the rent even higher. So let's see what these unfair advantages are that he's talking about. They know how to include certain deductibles that other people may not be aware of, Carson said. We really want to level the playing field and make it much more even for everyone. So let me get this straight. Somebody is including deductibles. They're not breaking the law. They're not scamming or anything. They're using deductibles. And there are other people who may, according to you, be eligible for those deductibles, but they're not aware of it. So instead of making that person aware, you're saying let's get rid of deductibles, period, to make it fair. How is that making it fair? Because I'm pretty sure that person that was eligible for those deductibles needed those deductibles. And if you would have let them know that they had those, they would have took it and they would have been happy because their life would have been made much easier. Much easier. Much easier. Now, I got to deal with this, family. We all know that this whole proposal is racist. We know that. We know Trump picking a black man who's a neurosurgeon who has no experience with housing. He picks that black man, and then magically that black man decides that we need to raise the rent and cut the services and money going to HUD and raise the rent on the poorest people. This is racist. And yes, I'm aware that not only black people will be affected by this, and yes, I'm aware that the majority of people who use these services are not black. But the reason these type of cuts and these type of reforms take place is because it's a direct attack on black people. We know welfare reform is a direct attack on black people. Again, I know the majority of people on welfare are not black, and black people will not be the only ones hurt by this. But we all know how welfare reform came to be in this country. We all know this. And now I want to say this to the pro-black people. You, pro-black people, what is your plan to deal with this racist attack against your people? Because you said Trump getting into office will be a good, positive thing for the people. And y'all talked about how you had all these plans to help the people, and it was going to be so bad that everybody was going to come together and then overturn the system. Things are getting pretty bad. I don't see no plan, and I don't see people coming together. And this is what I was talking about with these people, with their activism, where they're so gung-ho. They don't know what they're talking about. They're trying to come up with these cockamamie scams and plans in their head, thinking that they're going to somehow cause some mass awakening and everybody's going to come together and then everything is going to be some utopia. Like, what now? What now, Tariq Nasheed? What now, Boyce Watkins? What now, Professor Black Truth? What now, Yvette Carnell? What now, Jason Black? What now, Umar Johnson? What now, all the rest of you? What now? What now? Well, anyway, family, I see Trump is actually doing what he said he was going to do. He's making America great again. Well, his definition of a great America. And I'm going to end this video here. Like, share, subscribe. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you think. And on that note, family, peace.